have seen the pattern that there are four things that separate visionaries, not humans, not business owners, and there are only four. So one, I think you're either born top visionary on the planet or not. I think most people would choose this life, but they use those four things as excuses, not the motivator.
Ooh,
Like,
yeah.
for top visionaries, right mindset attracts right network, which creates right opportunities. Visionaries do not want to hang out with people that limit themselves. I just keep making bigger investments to be in smaller rooms. So bigger investment, smaller room, bigger impact allows biggest investment in smallest room family where I can make most impact.
You've talked about 4 different circumstances that entrepreneurs face. And I think you said you haven't met an entrepreneur who's not overcome at least one, if not all 4, likely 3.
Yeah.
Can we start there? Can you dive into what are these circumstances? And let's just kind of take the conversation through that.
Sure. Good preparation. I appreciate that. So just as background to the background, most of my day is either with my family, my wife, who is a pediatrician, and then COO of second company, which is BrEpic Network, and then our 2 sons who are 11 and 9. They are both 9 quick start visionary maniacs, pure visionaries, unemployable. So it's either spending time with them or talking to and connecting with the world's top visionaries. So not humans, not business owners, not consultants, just pure visionaries changing the world. Most of them, not all, but most of them have ADD. It's not a disorder about that stuff. I didn't know you had to pay taxes 4 times a year. I didn't know that. I don't really think about it or care about it. But and then have seen the pattern that there are 4 things that separate visionaries, not humans, not business owners, visionaries from the others, and there are only 4. So 1, bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. 2, depression. 3, highest level of anxiety that you can imagine, and 4, likely and or possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So for humans, business owners, consultants, those are excuses. For visionary, that's the fuel. So pre-COVID, when I only had one company, I was still talking to some small business owners or employees or consultants. And at the time, out of those 4 things, it was 1 and 2, maybe 3 out of the 4. Sometimes it was 0 out of the 4. And now, since COVID, when it's really just only visionaries, it's almost always at least 3 out of the 4 things. There's been a handful of folks less than 3 of those 4 things in the last couple of years since COVID. And then the really, if you want to call it successful ones, the really successful ones are usually all 4. And to land the plane, I'm 3 of those 4. The only thing I haven't had to worry about is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. But the successful ones, the really, really successful ones, almost always all 4.
Anxiety and depression, and even the traumatic. Let's start with the traumatic experience. Let's start there.
Sure.
Can you put some rigor around that? Is traumatic experience perceived, or is traumatic experience defined by certain types of events?
Well,
Rape,
with the high fact
that sort of
finder
thing.
input. Okay, so you like input and strategy and learning, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't do too deep of a dive on that, but I will because you asked. It can be so. My father died when I was 13. My youngest brother died of a drug overdose when he was 29. So that can be certainly considered trauma. Again, most of my day is talking to ADD folks, and I can't tell you how many of them were put in special education classrooms, given a hall pass just to leave the school, ostracized, because ADD is not a disorder. It's a sign of genius, but humans like order, so they label something a disorder when they don't understand it. So I would consider that trauma. Visionaries are usually aliens within their own family, community, and verticals. So the only people that understand us are top visionaries on planet. So most of these folks go a good part of their lives talking to people mostly that don't understand them, and they many times don't find anyone that actually understands them. I would consider that trauma. So I don't know if that answers your question directly, but what I see is a true visionary is the most damaged person, of those 4 things, at least 3, many times all 4. And then they have the best coping skills. So they have the highest IQ, the highest EQ, the most hustle, the most courage, the most guts, because they don't make excuses. Humans, business owners, consultants, they make excuses. Visionary, Figure it out. Like, oh, hey, you quit a $400,000 job. You got about a year of runway. Figure it out. Okay. Business owners don't do that.
Did you read my bio?
Well, I'm guessing you read mine in some capacity, but I like to know. Well, so
Well, you
I
just
like
said it.
to,
I quit a.
well, right. So that's, yeah. I mean, so I like to relate to people in some capacity, but like, no. So most people wouldn't do what you did, but that's
Yeah.
what a visionary does.
No, it's funny. Like I love that, and there's so many. Man, you gave me like 8 different questions that are going to pop up. But on landing this plane, as you've said about traumatic experience, anxiety, depression, I feel like all 3 of those I've experienced. I haven't had the bankruptcy.
Right.
I don't think I've been like when I think of close to bankruptcy, it's like the threat of it. I've had my financial hard times, but nothing like, oh my God, it's
You're
all
3 of
going
the
down.
4.
So
That would make sense.
3 of the 4. Yep,
Right.
exactly. But that traumatic experience, that big T, little t, like what is trauma? That one always, like you said, that's the one I deep dive always. Like, do you mean, beaten, physically abused, domestic violence, that sort of thing? Or is it like you said, somebody died? Right. But somebody dying, that's trauma. Or a way you were treated in a certain way, public embarrassment, all of that is trauma, right? In some way, shape, or form. So yeah, bullying was mine. I was bullied. So that was probably where I come up with
logical. That would make sense.
Why do you say humans versus visionaries? Tribe listeners, I have an extremely exciting announcement for all of you. Do you want to come hang out with Cody Sanchez, David Osborne, David Green, Rich Roll, and even yours truly down in Austin, Texas? Well, let's do it. May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, for the first time ever, GoBundance, the exclusive millionaire membership group, is opening up an event to anyone, man, woman, millionaire or not, and we're calling it the Austin Entrepreneurial Summit. At the AES, you'll meet all those people I mentioned, plus GoBundance members on both the men's and women's side, and I'll be there hanging out the entire time. Every event I've ever attended for GoBundance has given me a disproportionate return on the money spent and the time spent to get there. And this is the biggest one that GoBundance has ever done. So if you're a member, not a member, and you're looking to supercharge the second part of your year 2024, this event in May is a great way to get that all kickstarted. Go to GoBundance.com/AES right now for early bird pricing for members and guests. And warning, the power of GoBundance events is that it holds you accountable long after you're gone to achieving whatever goals you've set. So this event will change your life. GoBundance.com/AES. I'll see you there. Let's get back to the show.
Well, because people like us are usually aliens within our own family, community, verticals. So humans don't really, usually, not always, but usually people like us marry stabilizing humans, like a teacher, nurse, social worker. My wife's a pediatrician, a lawyer who's a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant. Because if the whole world was like us, it'd be anarchy, chaos. But no, I mean, like I've never understood human linear thinking, playing not to lose. I don't understand that. It's confusing to me. It's confusing to me when anyone makes an excuse or asks, what do you cost or charge? I don't understand that. And then just created something connecting visionaries to serve humanity. So I want to help humans. I just don't think about what they're thinking. I just connect visionaries, people like us, to help everyone else. So
You're a visionary, correct?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So the interesting thing with you is I think I don't know if it's strength finders, but like your gift is to activate, maximize, and achieve, right? Like those are 3 words that you describe.
Yeah.
So that feels like, so in the world of like Gino Wickman, traction, this whole like visionary integrator thing,
competition, like, number 1 strength finders.
There you go. So, but that sounds like integrator work language. That doesn't sound like visionary language. Help me piece. What I love about listening to you and what you do is like, you don't have these like you're allowed to be with the way.
I don't have ADD. So 90%.
Right. So
okay. All right. Let me slow it down and then I'll answer your question. Because I'm an educator and I just want to answer the damn questions. Because you're a deep thinker. Okay, right. So most of my days talking to ADD. They're all over the place. They ramble. Not a disorder. And then I hear blah blah blah. Simplify, connect. Simplify, connect. Simplify, connect. Simplify, connect. Simplify, connect. Simplify, connect. And I guess you would describe me as an integrating visionary, which is very rare. I asked you about Kolbe, Kolbe. I'm guessing after this you'll take it because now you've got enough details to do the thing. But so I don't care what someone does. I don't care where they live. I don't care how many. I don't care about any of that stuff. That's business owner stuff. But I do care is if they take action because talk is meaningless without doing something. So And Kolbe, KOLBE.com, A index. It's not your personality. I don't care what your personality is. It's how your brain takes action. How your brain takes action. And the overwhelming majority of visionaries, there are some exceptions, including me and Gino, by the way, are high quick start and little to no follow through. So they're all over the place. If they don't hire humans to help them, total disaster. Gino and I are actually the very, 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 very rare visionary who has high quick start and high follow through. So Gino's an 8 quick start, 6 follow through. I'm a 7 quick start, 6 follow through. Most of the people I talk to are 8, 9, or 10 quick starts. 10 is the highest, and they have 1, 2, or 3 follow through. 1 is the lowest. So if they don't hire a bunch of people to help them or an actual integrator, a total disaster. And then my wife, who is COO of second company, she's an 8742, so she's a 4 quick start, which is pretty low, but her follow throughs off the charts, a 7. And then my partner for second company is a 1596, pure visionary, pure maniac. That's a compliment. He's a 9 quick start with a 5 follow through, so he's a pure unicorn. But I see the world in numbers and keywords, and when you can match and collaborate with the right numbers and keywords, then all this other stuff I found takes care of itself.
Do you use this intentionally for, say, a business partnership?
For everything. Yeah, I don't. So thank you for asking that way. Whenever I heard the word business, I either literally or in my head, I cross it off and I change it to life immediately, because business partnership is for business owners. I don't think like that. I never have. I don't care about that stuff. To me, everything is about life partnership. So business owners think of 10x things in a revenue, office space, employee count, making some list. All that stuff's fine, by the way. The only two 10x's I care about are only two. One, experiences in life with my family, and two, network on a global level. And doing something like this is an example of that. So the only two questions I ask myself every day that matter are: one, did I have a good experience that day with my family? Check, yes, check. And then two, did network grow on a global level? And every day the answer to that is yes. And I found all this business owner stuff takes care of itself. But yeah, everything to me is a life partnership. And then for me, business is an extension of the purpose of my life, which is connecting visionaries to serve humanity. And then just created 2 companies that
That's interesting. The connector piece. You say you're high follow through based on Kolbe. Are you high follow through tactically, or are you high follow through relationally?
Well, you're a high fact finder, because a low fact finder never would have asked or even thought about that question, and then he wouldn't have cared, which is kind of funny. So you're probably a similar Kolbe to me, where you have high fact finder, decently high quick start, and then relatively high follow through. Can you build anything with your hands? Anything? Can you build anything?
Paper airplane?
Oh, well, that's more than I can do. So I can barely, for those who can see, I can barely hold a pencil right. Well, I can't hold a pencil right. I don't know how to do it. So the first 3 numbers, I'm an 8671 Kolbe. That's a pure unicorn score. So I have high fact finder, high follow through, and high quick start. So I guess to answer I'm not a strategic thing, but I'll do it to answer. But like, my brain is wired to follow through. And then before this, I was a journalist for 20 years. So if you don't have follow through in journalism, you miss a deadline or you don't get that quote, then that's a problem. So it's learned as well. But in Strength Finders, activate, maximize, achieve, competition, responsibility. So I feel responsible for getting it done. And then my Enneagram, unconscious motivators, is an 8, which means to be strong and self-reliant. That means you follow through, you get the job done. And then my Kolbe 8671 literally means I've got this. That's what it means. But I knew that for second company, there's no way I could build a SaaS platform myself. I'd blow myself up or electrocute myself. So I've got this turned to we've got this, and then that's been very exciting to watch that happen.
Does the connector energy you have require the visionary energy you have?
Tremendous question. Never thought, and this is why I like doing these shows, because I learn in real time. The purpose of my life is connecting visionaries to serve humanity, and that's all I ever think about besides hang out with my family. So if that means that's part of my visionary brain, so be it. I've talked to Gino Wickman about this in great detail, actually. I don't know if you have seen the documentary Hero Dreams of Sushi.
No.
So Hero, I don't know if he's still alive, but he had a 3-star or has a 3-star Michelin restaurant in a Japanese Tokyo subway station. So
Oh, I've heard of
14
this guy.
you have, yeah. So so all he wants to do, if he's still alive, if he's not alive, then all he wanted to do, or all he wants to do, was make sushi. Better ingredients, higher priced ingredients, better quality, better preparation, learn. And so that's all I want to do, is connect people, connect visionaries to serve humanity and spend time with my family. And then Gino is he's just like Hero too. He's like a mad scientist um, with high follow through. And so he and I are very like EOS. I thought from like he solved his own family's and company's problem with EOS. So he created EOS. Um, I talk to 1 to 2 visionaries every single week that have let entrepreneur life destroy their family life or prevented them from having a family. So wrote Epic Life book, which is how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. And then Dr. Peter Diamandis wrote The Ford. I'm very, very grateful for that. So Gino and I are very similar, that we just want to make sushi, better and better sushi. It's just different. He comes up with new companies, which is really interesting. I guess I do too. I would say he's a bigger visionary than I am. Um, and then he understands the long game better than I do because he's been doing this longer. But he talked about the all 4 things in a video. I can try and find that link, but he talked about the all 4 things, and he's like, "Oh yeah, and I'm all 4." So that was shared on social media, which I thought was pretty interesting.
It's funny you say that. He was on the show, and without mentioning all 4, he talked deeply about all 4:
Yeah,
trauma, anxiety, depression, and bankruptcy. He talked about all
yeah.
4
So that's
almost exclusively.
well, and so again, to land the plane twice, landing the plane.
We're landing
That
planes
came
everywhere.
from a conversation. So the background with that, because you like details, I wrote an article for Inc. magazine in like 2020 or 2021 with those 4 things, because everything's a pattern. And then I was talking about it, and he's like, "Oh God, send me that," because and then he started talking about it, and then whenever his next book comes out, that those 4 things will in that article will be in the book. His next company. So, but that makes sense, because when you see the patterns, and if you connect the pattern to the answer or the other visionary, then that's where you see massive growth. And then more importantly, you see the patterns, which is great, but when you develop your own patterns, that's when it's really exciting too. So I like to learn the patterns, see them, but then more importantly, create my own with them.
I love it. Before we get into the book and the lessons of, like, I love what you said about entrepreneurs destroying their lives with entrepreneurship.
Not funny, but it's
Can
true.
can you talk about, or at least, so I think of another guest, Benjamin Hardy, who's been on this show,
He's an 8
and
quick
he
start, 3 follow through. Yeah.
right, but he would say that all of these things, while they give you a sense into like how you are, they're often misused and limit you or bucket you into something like I am a 8-6 whatever. Like I'm only this, and you don't allow yourself to expand beyond it. Can you challenge that?
Yep. So I had this. Well, it's not a challenge. It's just a different way of thinking. I always think about Ben. So Ben interviewed me for Gap in the Gain, which for those who 10x is better than 2x or whatever. That's great. Who not how is great, but for a visionary, Gap in the Gain by far to me is the most important, because that's really what
Great book.
entrepreneur life is. So I'm very thankful to be in that. That was a great. And then I talked to him about that during the interview, because I think about him sitting on the. I don't know if he talked about this in your interview, but I think about him sitting on his couch when he was a teen and his parents were struggling, and he was just playing video games and going nowhere. And then he decided to go on a mission, LDS mission, I believe, and that changed his life. But he's got to be in all 4. I would think he's in all 4. But here's where I would I guess challenge this, or at least provide my own opinion. I was in an entrepreneur group the other day where a 9 quick start who was going through a horrible divorce also said something similar to what you just said regarding Ben. And he was saying, well, there's studies that show that you create an upper limit. You actually create a ceiling for yourself by talking like that, or
Yeah.
saying the word. Okay, that's and so so this was my response to the 9 quick start in the entrepreneur meeting. This will be my response here, is that to me, there are no limits when you put your family first and grow your network. In fact, I know there are no limits because I'm living proof of that. And again, all I want to do is spend time with my family and connect visionaries to serve humanity. And there is a limitless number of visionaries. You just have to find them. And then when you find them, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8 becomes 100. And I would venture to say maybe our firms partner with maybe 1 out of 1,000. Most people think that's a small number, but they're not visionary and they don't live in abundance and they have their own limits. So if there are 8 billion people, 1 out of 1,000 is 8 million. So to me, 8 million is a no limit thing. So that's 1. And then 2, I name my years. It's a great practice. I strongly recommend folks do that. It's from a great friend, Joe Martin, visionary. That was his idea. So
Like
I
the
named my
year
years.
of kind of thing, year of whatever. Is that what you
Oh,
mean by?
yeah. Okay. Yes. Because you really want the nuts and bolts. Okay. So I will do that. So 2020 was global growth. So every day, global growth, global growth. Started having conversations with entrepreneurs around the world, joined 2 global organizations, entrepreneur groups. So that's what happened. 2021 was no limits. Every day, no limits, no limits, no limits. So when you have no limits, there are no limits, even if someone challenges that. And then 2022 was Epic Life. That became the name of the second book. 2023, this year, at the time of our recording, was networks, 2 words, networks. And oh wow, BrEpic Network it works great. We're about to be named one of the top 5 masterminds on the planet. I'm very, very grateful for that. My wife is transitioning out of pediatrics to as she's become COO of the company. She's an onboarding machine with harmony and relationship, which is really interesting. And she's high IQ. And then I just found out, I'm very grateful, going to be ringing the NASDAQ bell with the BrEpic Network shirt on. That'll be fun. But again, no limits, no limits. And then 2024, it will be called Century, because I know you're going to ask that, but Century Club. Century Club. And I used to think it would mean getting BrEpic Network to 100 members, that'll easily be done by the end of 2024. But I did a deep dive on it through Strategic Coach. One of the exercises is like a lifetime extender, like planning how long you want to live. And mine is till 123, and living to 123 gets me through the end of this century. And so that's what BrEpic Network is. It's a century club that it's just a club of people I want to hang out with for the rest of my life. So that's what I've learned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to dig because I've
You're a
set
digger.
myself up.
You like to dig.
My brand is to dig.
Dig. Hey, that works with insurance and executive insurance jobs. So keep digging.
I left that though. I was out of that. Screw that job.
You're still digging. I can hear it. I can hear it in the brain.
It is churning. How do you come up with these names? Can you give is there a decision tree? Is it gut feeling? Like, how do you come up with these themes for the year?
Okay. So Gallup Clifton Strength Finders. I am 32 out of 34 in ideation. 32 out of almost everyone I talk to is top 5 in ideation and or futuristic. I'm very low in both of those, but again, activator, maximizer, achiever, competition, responsibility. Those are top 5. And by the way, 6 of this is self-assurance, so there's no imposter syndrome. A lot of visionaries are very low in self-assurance, and they have
That's me.
Well, so you know the answer. Here's the answer, right? Okay, so I'm not. I'm the opposite of that. I'm very confident, not arrogant. I'm useless to society at almost everything, but at this, I'm really good at it. So I'm confident in that. Okay, so that's not arrogant. Arrogant people think they're great at everything. I'm useless at almost everything. Okay, so I start thinking about the next year about 3 to 4 months ahead of time, and then because I'm so low in ideation, like almost no good ideas. If I do have a great one, then I know immediately. So it'll just pop into my head, usually after a run. I run 3 to 5 miles every day, except Sundays. I've done that for 20 years. Outside, we live in Chicago, so the weather's usually horrible here. And usually during or at the end of those runs, it'll pop into my head. But I definitely give myself 3 to 4 months ahead of time. And by the way, saying it every single day, like networks every day of 2023, that's just what happens. I mean, it's just that consistency. You asked about follow through earlier. It's just that consistency and that rhythm and that pattern becomes a great ritual. And then you almost create your own rhythm with your own action and follow through. It's super interesting to see that in real time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the connecting stuff because like networks, all of this.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gino Wickman. We mentioned Benjamin Hardy. You not saying his word, but Dan Sullivan's in there. Peter Diamandis.
10 quick start. Peter's an 8. Yeah.
There you go. But he's wrote the forward for your second book. Your last book, there was somebody else who wrote the forward. Forgive me.
Chris is a 9 quick start. Never split the difference.
Oh, Chris Voss. That's right. Yes, I was going to say if somebody else prominent, he's coming on next month as a guest.
That's logical. That makes sense.
All these people are swirling around. Right. Talk to me about your ability to create these networks.
Well, an ability, I'm going to look that word up because when someone says, someone like you says an actual word that interests me, I like to know where the word comes from. And then I'll answer it. Yeah, right. Of course you are, because we're the same. So ability,
that's a control freak issue.
Yeah, it's called OCD. So ability, possession of the means or skill to do something, talent, skill, or proficiency in a particular area. Okay, so I'll answer it in that way because that's what the word actually means. So again, everything is a pattern, right? Everything. And I think you're either born top visionary on the planet or not. I think most people would choose this life, but they use those 4 things as excuses, not the motivator.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah. But I don't understand. I'm dead last in empathy on Strength Finders. For top visionaries, I have endless empathy, but anyone who makes an excuse or ask what do you cost or charge, like I don't understand that, and I just don't talk to them because they're not a visionary. They're their own limiter. But my favorite pattern, it's very simple, but right mindset attracts right network, which creates right opportunities. So I think you're either born a visionary or you're not. But if you are, you can work on your mindset every single day. Or however you look at time. And then we only partner with visionaries who live in abundance, who look at things as investments, not costs. So a visionary might think they live in abundance, and then this is where the fake visionary gets stopped, but the fake visionary still looks at things as costs, or what do you charge, or I don't have the money to do that. A true visionary would never do that. They would just write the check. And then visionaries do not want to hang out with people that limit themselves. So that's the pattern that I've seen. I've also found that directness eliminates nonsense and attracts greatness. So, and you can certainly ask my wife this. Most people, I can very confidently say, don't understand and or like me because I'm very direct. But top visionaries on the planet absolutely love it. Because they've felt like this, they just might not necessarily have been able to say it because they have lots of employees around them, or they're trying to be kinder, or they're higher in empathy than I am. And I'm not afraid to say it. Okay, so those are the patterns that I see. And then the other one that directly answers your question is I just keep making bigger investments to be in smaller rooms, but the people in those rooms are making bigger impact. That allows me to spend biggest investment in smallest room, which is my family, where I can make the most impact. So bigger investment, smaller room, bigger impact allows biggest investment in smallest room, family, where I can make most impact. And then the interesting thing is, again, you create your own pattern with that. So created own smaller room, bigger investment, biggest impact, connecting visionaries to serve humanity. There's not a bigger impact than that. And then you just keep raising the investment because it eliminates people that make excuses. And then my wife gets annoyed with humans and the humans complaining about their human children as a pediatrician. And she is transitioning out of that as the COO of the company. So creating the small room actually allowed my wife to join that room. And she's just an incredible COO integrator. The reason why the company's been successful is it's not because of me and my partner, although we've done a great job. It's my wife. She's the glue. She's the harmony.
What's cool about you too is you are absolutely of your word. I was in Chicago and I messaged you saying, "Hey, man, great, awesome. I'm going to be in Chicago. How about we do a live episode?" And you were like, "No, maybe you didn't hear me. I spend time with my family. I'm not driving across Chicago to meet you in a
Oh,
podcast
hell
studio."
no.
You didn't
No, I'm not
you
doing
didn't say it like, you weren't being a dick. It wasn't like that. But my point is like you said, "No, man, listen, I appreciate it, but I like spending time with my family. So let's just do
that.
virtual. Virtual is
Thank you.
better for you, right?"
Well, I mean, I think it's better for most people now. When thank you for saying that. I certainly wasn't trying to be offensive, but I really just want to
No,
spend time with my family. And then, like, some people don't understand that because they
I
don't want.
respect it big
Well,
time.
right, people like you do because you left your job so you could spend time with your family in Caribbean or wherever you are. But
Yeah,
like, and you had
Dominican
little
Republic.
kids. Okay, but so like, but you know, life to me is like logic and taking big risks. So and there's a great mix of that. But anyone who would put entrepreneur life in front of their family life is illogical. It's illogical to me. Like, why would you do that? And yet I constantly talk to people like us that do. I mean, that's literally why I wrote Epic Life. How to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. And by the way, that was written before my wife decided to phase out of pediatrics. So, like, she's the biggest reason of how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. So, putting loved ones first allowed my wife to join the company to build collaborative. Like, it's really interesting.
Synergistic. Yeah.
Activated your own rhythm, activated your own mission in life. It's super interesting.
Can you put entrepreneur life second always, or are there seasons within the
It's
journey where it's like,
collaborative. Well, I'll give you so our sons are 9 and 11. 9 and 11. There's work-life balance. I don't even understand that. It's confusing to me. It's just life. So, um, our sons are both 9 quick start, 2 follow-throughs. So, for those who know
big
Colby,
visionaries?
they're not employable. They'll never have. If they ever have a job, I'll be. And okay, so then the 9-year-old, when he already wants to take over both of the companies I helped start. He's a bigger visionary than I am. Both of them are. And when the 9-year-old was 8, his name is Chase. He and I went out for a pizza dinner, and we were talking about IQ and bending time. IQ and bending time. So Chase, he said the best thing I've ever heard anyone say. And all I do is talk to really smart, really good people. Really good people. And then so when he was 8, earlier in 2023, Chase considers life one long great day. So yesterday is before you were born, and then tomorrow's after you die. And then he's like, there are only 2 ways to have a great day. Only 2. He's a simplifier like I am, pattern recognizer. So he's like, 1, create more living things. The fundamental purpose of any living thing is to create more living things. So that could be a child, it could be planting a tree, it could be creating a company, it could be creating a foundation that's alive, a network. I don't know. And then I don't think there's an argument against that. If there is, there would be no life. But if anyone wants to argue that, that's fine. And then 2, he said, do what you like to do and what you're good at, and keep getting better at it.
8-year-old?
Well, he's 9 now, but yeah, but that's what we talk about. So that's what I mean. So like we talk about sports and girls and whatever that but that's what I mean. It's just a collaborative conversation. And the
At what age
greatest.
did they take? Did they take the strength finders or the Colby?
Oh
At
man,
what
are
age?
you a deep dive input? Okay, all right. So man, this is hilarious. Okay, all right. So I'll answer it though. I'll answer it. So I don't follow rules. I don't believe in rules. My wife does. That would be good as a doctor, but
Same, man. Same.
yeah. Well, an insurance brokerage or whatever you did before this, it's good to have rules, I guess. But like so you're supposed to take Colby for kids, which is Dynamite, Dynamynd. You're supposed to take it in 4th grade. I don't follow rules or believe in them for the most part. So our kids first took it in 1st and 2nd grade. And then they retook it in, what are they in now? They're when they were in 3rd and 4th grade. Now they're in 4th and 5th, and their scores barely changed. And they were 9 quick starts both times. and 2 follow-throughs both times.
Why are they in public school?
Great question. Okay, I'm going to give you a deep dive answer to that one. And there's a multiple response to that. So one, their public school is not really it is a public school, but it's really small. It's almost like a private feel to it. And they have a ton of friends. They're learning basic things like how to read and math and stuff, which is great. They have my wife's kindness, empathy, and relator ability, which is beautiful. Like, they're among the most popular kids in their grades, which it's, you can understand too, I'm guessing. Like, it's because I was definitely not that. And then my wife says 3 words to me before parent-teacher conferences. You want to guess what they are? I guess.
Oh God, just shut up.
Close. Don't say anything. So then the teacher will, so I'll just sit there and smile and nod, and the teacher will be like, "Oh, your kid is doing math a different way than everyone else," or, "Oh, he's raising his hand," or, "He's impulsive," or, "He's, moving around a lot." And I smile and nod. And then they're like, "Do you have any questions?" So it's a really good, you talk about balance. It's they can learn school stuff, human stuff. It's good to, we are humans. So it's good to learn that stuff. And they're really good athletes. They're with all their friends. And then, now my wife certainly too, but before it was mostly me, teach them about bending time and IQ and Colby scores and people who make excuses and then those who don't. And like I said, they're bigger visionaries than I am. Since birth, they've been like that. And then the greatest joy by far, there's not even a close second, but the greatest joy of this life is that my kids get to see this life even exist, because most people don't. They'll never even be exposed to this. And then this 1A or number 2 is that my wife has seen enough of this where she wants to be fully involved in it. I mean, I never thought that would happen. Never.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Beautiful blessing.
Let's talk about the family first approach. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sitting here going like, yeah, I would love to. I'm in it though. I'm in build mode.
No.
What do you say?
No excuses. So my father was 61 when I was born. 61. Wow. He was a World War II hero, shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, got back in no plane. So you either can do that or not. Anyone who makes an excuse, don't even listen to it. Nope.
Interesting. How do you guide them over to family first?
Well, that's why I wrote the book. I don't. So I do ask their IQ. Again, see the world in numbers. Have you ever done your IQ?
I don't think I have. I'm gonna guess it's low, but no, I don't think I have.
Smart one's out. No, yours is like mine. You're a bridge. Well, because you want a deep dive, I'll do it. But 140 and above is genius.
Okay.
That's less than 1% of the population.
I got to take a bunch of tests after this now.
You don't have to, but you probably
I do.
That. You probably want to do it. Okay.
I do.
Well, Colby's the number 1. I would guess you're very similar to my wife and me. She and I are both 139, so 140. So that we're about the 1% range, or the 99%. And so we're bridges between genius and human. When you get over 160, those people almost never have families. They're like cyborgs. So the ones that are in build, I mean, what I do ask folks like that, I do ask what their IQ is. And then if someone leads with 3 or more, what I call like transactional things, like, oh, hey, my revenue hit this, or we just added our office or number employee, or we made this list of fastest growing, whatever. So if it's 3 or more, I always ask I'll just sit there and listen. But then the follow-up question is, so how's your family? And then 95+% of the time it's, I'm going through a divorce, or I never had children, or I don't see my children. So I guess to answer your question, it's making them aware of that. But if the IQ is so high, it's a very difficult life. It's
That's
really
interesting.
difficult. Yeah.
So over 140 or over 160? Are you
Oh,
kind of like,
here.
yeah,
Here, I'll send it in the chat. I simplified. Now, I'm not a scientist. I just see the pattern and here's the answer. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I simplified IQ. Like here, I'll send
I
you
love
that.
the level of IQ it takes to simplify IQ.
Well, my 139 was the simple. It's the bridge. I mean, that makes
I
sense.
know.
So
I love that though.
I would guess you're between 138 and 142. That would be Gino.
Wow,
I don't
genius.
know. Oh yeah, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. It'd be impossible. You wouldn't be able to do it because entrepreneurs are the most damaged people with the best coping skills. They have the highest
Yeah,
IQ.
but you realize if I'm a 140 plus and that's technically genius level, everyone will hear that. 100% of the people I know and don't know will hear that I'm a genius. That's
Who
all I'm thinking
cares?
about
Yeah,
right
but
now.
you have imposter syndrome, and I don't. So,
That's a good. Wow, that's a great wraparound. That's a
well, that's what it
great
is.
point.
Of course, you're
Yeah.
just imposter syndrome. But I just put the link in there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
the fact that you even care what other people think is, well, I don't understand it. But two, like
That blows my mind that you don't. But yes, you're right. You're
why
spot
would
on.
I?
I get that.
Why would I care what someone who
I
I care
know.
about my family and connecting visionaries to serve humanity? Why would I let someone who doesn't understand me get in the way? I mean, that was most of my life because they didn't understand. So what's the
I'm
point?
reading this. So I'm going to read this. I see the world in numbers, have talked to many top visionaries over the past several years and asked their IQ. I am 139. This is you. 140 and above is considered genius and is less than 1% of population. Most people I talk to are 140 and above. Here's a pattern I see. High 120, low 130s, solid business minds with appreciation for family or loved ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bet
Mid
you see a
130s,
lot
low
of people like that in your group. I would guess you see a lot of people.
100%. 100%. Solid business mind with appreciation for,
I
yes,
see
100%.
very few people like that. Very few.
Mid high 130s to low 140s, bridges between geniuses and humans, can
Which is
connect
you.
both sides, tougher to understand humans unless married to one or surrounded by those you can
Right.
learn from.
So
Oh,
you're
that's
married to
so,
one and you're surrounded by them. So yeah, I would
that's
guess
fucking,
you're right. So you're probably
wow.
140, 139, 138.
Oh, I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. Mid 140s to high 150s. Many won't even admit their IQ because they don't want to seem like bragging. These
Yep.
geniuses are true visionaries and
These are the
futurists. They are great at
funnels.
building systems.
Those are the funnel
Yep.
people. Those are the ones, and then they have they're starting to not understand family at all. They're great at building
Over
funnels and whatever the hell that crap is, but email lists, but they can't take their children out to dinner. It's not funny,
Over
but it's
one.
true.
Oh, no, no, no. I get it. Over 150 starting to be very difficult to have relationships.
Yep.
160s, I have seen very few 160 and over who fit in the world. Is that Elon?
Elon is between 155 and 165, according to the stories I've read.
Interesting. Lonely existing because he's had like 6 kids with many wives and he can't
he
keep a
has no
relationship.
empathy. He has no empathy. He's one of the few people I can think of that has less empathy than I do.
Who's so 170 and above? Very, very, very rare in
Yeah.
normal world. But I talked to a few. Who the hell's 170? Like maybe not people
I
you know, but
the
like is there
highest
somebody
I
we
know
all
is
know?
179. She's been divorced twice, no children. She's a pure genius. Really struggles. And then the 173 that I know, he has a human girlfriend. He won't even go out in public with her because he can't pretend to be someone else. Can't do it.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
IQ, you've allowed it. You figured out a way to correlate IQ to relational behavior.
Well, but if that's how you interpreted it, great. I just like to see the world in numbers, and then, and it's interesting when there's because I met a 160. I've only met 2 or 3 160 and above that have a family, and I met one the other day, and I was really surprised. So he has 2 children, but he's been divorced twice, and he's tested 160 in second grade. I go, oh, that sounds like a really terrible life. And he's like, yeah, it's been very difficult. I go, well, yeah, because you're so smart because like when you get in the 160, that's like 1 out of 2 million people. Where I'm at and my wife are at, and where I think you're at, it's like 1 out of 105. So they're around. But when you're in the 160s, that's an island among an island among an island. There was one guy I talked to who was over 170. He was in Arkansas. He's in Arkansas, and he has no money. No money. He doesn't even care about money, which is interesting. And then he's working for his uncle, like fixing windows at his uncle's shop. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just want to partner with Elon and create stuff, but I'm in my uncle's factory or whatever working on Windows. But like they're so beyond and then I talk to these people and see them present things all the time. So they're really smart, which is great, but they don't have the genius heart. So like I was talking to a good friend of mine, Sarah Harkness. She's a 9 quick start. Pure visionary. She's had like 26 surgeries, should be dead, but she's not. She has some young kids. Yeah, that's a visionary. So like she's in all 4. And then she's like, the key is finding the genius brain and combining that with the genius heart. Because like there's a lot of genius brains. They build the funnels, they're great marketers, but they don't have a genius heart. And then you have the genius heart, the kumbaya, the hippie, whatever, they're playing guitar on the street corner, but they don't have a genius brain. So they don't, it's fine to play the guitar on the street corner or peace and love or whatever. But if you can't really do anything at scale with that, then what's the point? But to me, and then if you combine the genius brain with the genius heart, that's when you get something really, really special. And I think the IQ that I have a really good score because it's not too high where you become a cyborg, but it's also not too low. So like it's like a bridge. And then I married the nicest person on the planet who taught me how to say thank you, and then have learned empathy. My partner for second company, he's an empath, so I've learned that from him. So it's creating the genius brain with the genius heart.
Something very liberating about listening to you, because I have no aspiration to Elon. That's not my.
Me neither.
That's not my
I don't
goal,
want to be
right?
like that. Hell no. That sounds like a horrible life. Ugh.
But I do compare to people that I feel like, oh man, I could be where they are, whatever that means. And this is almost like, you know what? Why not assess for you who you are based, like you said, follow the numbers. So like if I'm listening to you, tell me if I'm wrong on this. You work with somebody or an entrepreneur, visionaries, which you would define as high on the quick start, like 7, 8, 9 quick start.
7, 8, 9 or 10. Yeah. I'll answer that before you continue. With the PR firm, in 6.5 years, 0 business background, our firm has partnered with 2 people that I know of under a 7 quick start. Only 2. So and then the second company, there are only 3 members under a 7 quick start. Only 3.
Okay. So high quick start, exposure or have experience with at least one of the all 4, probably 3.
Oh, at least 3. Yeah, at least 3.
Okay. And then IQ 130 to 150?
That's really interesting. I haven't thought about it like that, but again, that's why I like doing these shows, because you learn in real time. The lowest IQ of anyone I've talked to in the last 3 years that they know of is 127. So for a human, that's still pretty. And then the highest IQ is 179. The highest IQ of anyone. The highest IQ of anyone that I know of who's actually hired the PR firm or joined the network, I'd say he's 160. So I would amend what you said to 130 to 160.
So 130 to 160, 7, 8, 9 quick start, and 10, 3 of 4.
10 quick start, a 10, yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10 quick start, yep. And 3 of 4, that's your century club. Starting out. I mean, the person has to have, I'm sure, other attributes, but like that's probably going to be the essence or the metric representation of your century club. Is that fair?
Not only is it fair, it's accurate. It's really interesting how your brain strategically can listen and then decode it. But again, that's high IQ pattern recognition. So
I'm a genius.
Well, I mean, it's like people are like, they're confused by it, but I'm like, a human could not do that. They're not going to be able to do that. So, and nor would they even want to do what you just did.
Sure.
They're not going to want to do that, but that's fine.
What's funny though is like I don't do anything with it. Does that make sense? Like it's interesting.
No, that makes absolutely no sense to me why you wouldn't do something with that.
No. I mean, like I don't feel like anything happened. Like what I do is I take it and I put it out into the world, and everybody hears it and listens and all that stuff.
Do something with it.
Fair enough. So I lied. But my point is like, you would think, because I hear these patterns and dissect them in a different way than you do. But you would think I would be able to sort of like what you did. I mean, to be able to identify, like, you know what? Because I got to believe for the Century Club, for anything you're doing with the BrEpic Network,
Yeah.
that the Kolbe, the Strength Finders are like entry level requirements of people before they join. Correct? You're having them do those.
Well,
I'd be shocked if you said no.
The answer is yes, but like a visionary would never say no to doing something like that. They would just do it.
No, right. But I would guess you would say like, hey, do you have a Strength Finder? Do you have a Kolbe? No, I don't have it. Okay, great. Just do those and we're all set. Like, oh yeah, they'll do
I
it.
write down before I meet someone is their name and their Kolbe score.
No
I know
shit.
when someone's a visionary. Yeah, and I don't know. My brain can photographically remember someone's Kolbe. I don't really know why.
I see that.
Well, yeah. So, and I see the world as numbers, but like, I know when someone's not a visionary, when they ask, what does the Kolbe cost? Or is there a free version of it? I'm like, well, but again, the overwhelming majority of visionaries are at least a 7 quick start. Most are 8, 9, or 10. And then again, to really deep dive it, a 10 quick start is 1 out of 200 humans in human world, 1 out of 200. In my world, it's like 1 out of 8. So you might go a whole, Dan Sullivan's a 10 quick start. So you might go, your whole life without even understanding what a 10 quick start is. You're like, oh, wow, that guy or woman's just all over the place, but they're just a 10 quick start. And then most people I talk to are 9 quick starts. That, like, the average score of someone I talk to is a 3.393. That's pure ADD. In human world, that's really rare. In my world, that's the average. That's the average score.
You know, it's funny. You're making me think of this when you said about they'd ask you what the cost of the Kolbe was. I have a confession. I tried to take Strength Finders before I came on. So I go on Gallup, I order it. It's like $65 or something like that. And then it processed. And then it didn't like send it to me. So I went in, It sent me to another page to order it again. And I ordered it again. I was like, fuck it. What's $60? The same thing happened to me on a flight on Air Canada. I bought Wi-Fi like 3 times for $12 because it wouldn't process. I was like, whatever.
Man, you went for it. But you'd be amazed, or maybe not. Most people would never do that.
Well, they would say I'm being irresponsible. And I don't disagree in some ways, but at the same time, I look at it like it's $36 or it's $120. Like the value of my time figuring it out is greater than the spend.
It's a good investment. So again, we only partner with visionaries who live in abundance, who look at things as investments, not costs. So everything to me is an investment. For whatever you want to call it, the first network, again, bigger investment, smaller and bigger impact. So the first investment was never a cost, but first group, it was like $250 a year. Then there was a $500 a year. Then there was $1,000. Then there was $2,000. Then there was a $5,000. Then there was a $10,000. And then now I invest well over $100K a year, and then created own version of that only for visionaries, because visionaries don't want to talk to business owners. They don't want to deal with that. It's limiting. So, and then again, when you see the formula and the pattern, you just keep writing bigger checks. And regardless of what the investment is, because it's a good investment, you see in the pattern. And then investment is certainly not just a dollar amount. If you make an investment, you invest your time in it too.
Yeah.
Put the time in it. That's where you really learn and find the right people. And then again, disqualify the wrong people. They disqualify themselves.
I love it. Wow. Yeah. Very interesting. I love this like buy box that you have of people that you like to be around and hang out with.
One of the chapters of BrEpic Life is Be the Buyer, which is from Dan Sullivan. So there's nothing outbound. Nothing to sell. People just, the visionaries they want to be a part of this. That's why it's scaling so fast, because they don't want to hang out with business. They don't want to, and then they don't want to hang out with the genius brains that don't have the genius heart. They don't want to be around funnel people building this stuff and then they torch their family. They don't want to be around that. They don't want that.
Can you quantify real quick? Maybe I missed it. It just didn't land for me. But genius heart. Can you get a little bit deeper on what makes up the genius heart? How do you identify it?
Thanks for asking that. My wife taught me how to say thank you, so I'm giving her a shout out on that one. So where I see the genius heart is in empathy, and which is ironic considering I'm dead last in empathy on Strength Finders. But for visionaries, I have endless empathy. endless. I understand visionaries most of the time better than they understand themselves. And a business owner, again, cares about revenue, office space. A funnel person, funnel, scale, funnel, scale. I don't know, that stuff's annoying. It's just ridiculous. It's funnel, bother someone, funnel. Okay, and then the visionary, the one with the genius heart, they care about true connectivity, relationships, spending time with loved ones or caring friends. I don't know, whatever the word you want to use it. And they're the world thinking. A business owner is their world linear funnel thinking. A visionary is exponential the world thinking. That's where the heart comes in. And I guess I'll use myself an example as an example if it's helpful. Like, my son Chase, like, he provided the great day, create more living things, do what you like to do, what you're good at. So, like, I've accomplished my life, meaning I'm accomplishing what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I look at myself as a bridge between my dad, who was a war hero and never made an excuse, ever, no excuses, a bridge between him and my children and their children and their children and their children and their children. That's how I look at my life. And I know my children will help humanity far more than I will, because they have my wife's whatever, harmony, love, kindness.
You know what's interesting though on this?
Whatever that is.
You haven't given a number to quantify this. Genius heart. Is there one? You mentioned empathy. Is there a certain minimum score on empathy? Sure.
I have not seen an assessment that measures quantifiable empathy. Where I have seen actually, let me take that. Okay. So IamDriven.com. I'm assuming you know Dr. Doug Brackman. Are you heard of him?
I do know that name. I don't know why I know that name, but yeah, I've heard that before.
So he's an 8 quick start, very little follow through. He wrote the book Driven.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. Okay, you would love him. So pure ADD, and he was living in his car as a teenager, and his IQ's off the charts. And then he was doing like high school math in 3rd grade or something like that. Okay, so anyway, very very difficult life. And then so he created an assessment at IamDriven.com. I'm not affiliated with this all, but I'm trying to answer your question. IamDriven.com takes 5 minutes. It's free. Woohoo! And it measures intuition. And my intuition is like off the charts. It's like, and then most drivens, most ADDs, I'm not, but most visionaries, they're constantly bored because they're next shiny object. I'm less bored than an average human because I never leave my zone of genius, which, again, to challenge what you said before, there's no limits when you're never bored. There's no limits to that. Like when you're constantly in your zone of genius, there's no limits to that. But that's a good one to measure. I would say EQ, emotional quotient, intuition, and I'm a full 10 out of 10 on that. So that's a good one if you're looking to measure that.
Is it representative of the genius heart? The key to life, it isn't money. It's happiness. And when you measure how happy you are, you actually become even more happy. Our friends at GoBundance, the Tribe of Millionaires, use a very specific tool to measure their happiness. It's called the Life Happiness Index. And you can have it too. Go over to GoBundance.com/LHI and take your Life Happiness Index assessment. You'll rate yourself in multiple categories on exactly how happy you are and get a custom output for you specifically that you can use in developing whatever goals you have for your life. GoBundance is the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. And the tool GoBundance members use at the base of all of that is the Life Happiness Index. Get out there and grab life big.
I do think so. Yeah.
So that's the measure. Because it's almost interesting to hear you're the numbers guy, but it's like you're struggling to quantify numerically the genius heart. Like, is that the one? Is that the one where it's like, this is a good measure to kind of get you in the room, but it's hard to.
Well, again, because so like there are no weaknesses. I don't look at weaknesses as weaknesses. What I look at them is an opportunity to find a collaborative strength. So I'm 31 out of 34 in harmony. My wife is number 1 out of 34 in harmony. So collaborative harmony. I'm dead last in empathy, 34 out of 34. My partner for second company, he does 8 and 9 figure deals all day. He's third in empathy, third for a visionary. That's like, so having the genius heart or the genius brain, for me, it allows me to understand that the weaknesses are an opportunity to find a collaborative strength. And that's where my heart has been developed. And again, my wife taught me how to say thank you. I didn't even know that, like, I don't even think about it. So the first thing I do every day is a grateful journal to her, what I'm grateful for to her. And then 5 days a week, I'll include this in that. I do a grateful journal on LinkedIn. So if you're constantly grateful, it's hard to be ungrateful. And then gratitude attracts gratitude and repels arrogance. That's what I've seen. But that, I guess it still doesn't answer your quantifiable question. I just had to really learn that, just learn it. But maybe the heart doesn't look at things as numbers. Maybe not.
That's it. That's literally what I was going to say. Like, I think what you're saying is the heart doesn't allow for quantitative. It's all qualitative. And that makes sense. By the way, Gay Hendricks needs to write the forward for your next book. You beautifully described Zone of Genius. Beautifully described it.
So, so Gay's with Mike Koenigs all the time. I don't know Gay's Colby, but Mike is a 9 quick start 2 or 3 foul. He's a 3.295.
I'm a fan of his. I like him. I tried to get him on.
He's a great guy. Oh, you want me to introduce you to him?
Oh, sure. Look at that happening. Connector.
All right. Well, just
well, look, I'm emailing you after with my Colby, my IQ, and my Strength Finder.
Yeah, but Koenig says 0 follow through, so I'll have to text you to him. So just text me or send me your cell phone.
I will. I'll do that. Real quick, I want to before we wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit more about family first. I'm forgetting. There's so much is going through my head of how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. So you talked about no excuses, and I love that. I think it starts with that. Like,
100%.
but what about? No excuse.
No
right?
excuses. I don't want to hear it.
So beyond declaring it, okay, from here forward, family first. Beyond declaring it, what is the biggest obstacle you've seen entrepreneurs who declare it and look to execute it? But what do you mean? Get deeper on that. Themselves how?
They're their own problem.
Addiction? Workaholics?
So I was talking to Gino about that. So I was talking about the 4 things, and he said the 5th one, I think this will be in his books, is the 5th thing entrepreneurs are, they're addicts. So, and then to answer your question, so there's really bad addictions, cheating on your spouse, alcohol, drugs, workaholism. And then there's good addiction, spending time with loved ones and connecting visionaries to serve humanity. No limits to that. I will challenge that again. There are no limits to that.
Yeah.
That's where the genius heart comes in. So no, I don't, no limits with that. And then the wrong addiction, the wrong pattern. So that's why I wrote the book. Here's the wrong pattern. But again, if someone doesn't take responsibility for their own actions first, then they're not. A visionary would never blame anyone else but themselves. They would never do that.
All right, then let me ask this question. How do you, for you, define enough?
No, I don't even think about that.
Really?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't.
Is there an aversion to it for any specific reason, or is it just it never occurred to you?
I spend time with my family as much as I want to, and grow a network on a global level. That's it. That's
simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, so like what I see, I guess I think maybe what you're saying is like the ones that measure all this other stuff. That's where they fall into a trap because they're winning the wrong game. That's,
you know what? That's a good way of reframing where my question was going. Where I was asking, it was like, I can hear like the entrepreneur or the person who's maybe like trying to get out of the job and become the entrepreneur to have time with their family. I can hear them saying like, yeah, but I got to get to a certain level before I can reprioritize that.
Wrong answer.
Right. I love the point that you made about reframing addiction. You can become addicted to spending time with your family, right?
Why
Choose that addiction.
Wouldn't you want to be addicted to that?
That's a great point. Well, you're a 160 plus. That's why.
I'm not.
No, not you, but I'm saying like
Oh,
if
fair enough. Yeah, that you know what? I would agree with you on that.
Wow. Well, we'll end it with numbers. Justin, where can people learn more about you? Sounds like LinkedIn, you're pretty active, books, all that good stuff. Tell me where we can learn more.
Just send out a Morse code of numbers. No, I'm kidding. Actually, those were letters, right? Whatever they are. The BrEpicNetwork.org is the main. BrEpicNetwork.org. That's the best.
BrEpic, BrEpic network.org.
Yeah,
Justin, man, this was fun. Thank you so much for diving deep with me.